welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you this morning on WJOP-LP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9 and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I am really excited to welcome this morning's guests. Kim and Steve Keene are here. They are co-founders of the Pelican Intervention Fund, which they founded in 2015 with the goal of supporting addicts on their journey to recovery, with a focus on 12-step based residential programs. So first, Kim and Steve, welcome, and thank you so much for taking time to visit the morning show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mary, thank you for this opportunity to share our story with the community. Really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure because the work you do is so important. And I was hoping that we might start with you sharing with us the origin story of the fund, who, what, when, where, why, etc.
Great.
So tell us what made you get started and how you launched.
Oh, boy. Great question. Interesting story. You know, Kim and I have lived here now about 22 years, so we're almost locals. But,
I know. I've had 12th generation people on the show.
But we love it here. And we raised 3 boys here, our 3 sons, and went through the local school systems. And really how we got started probably in like 2014. Our middle son, Ryan, he struggled, frankly, with alcohol and marijuana. He had a DUI, and he ran, it's a slightly rougher crowd. But his friends are good kids, and they were always at our house. And one fella in particular, Corey, was like a member of the family. He spent so much time with us. He, as it progressed, we helped out our son Ryan. He got cleaned up. And then the kids grew up and went to college. And then Corey went to school, playing hockey. He got injured and then got into the opiates, that route,
Yeah.
And he knew it was wrong. He just said, I'll take them. And it just really went downhill quickly.
Yeah.
He started taking a lot of opiates, got addicted, he started dealing. He got kicked out of school. And we were trying to help him a little bit, advise him. At one point, his friends came to us and said, Mr. and Mrs. Keene, if you don't help Corey, he's going to die.
Gosh.
And I'm like, whoa. We knew about the beer and the marijuana and stuff. So we sat down, kind of had an intervention with Corey. Kim and I had dinner and said, look, we know what you're doing. It's not sustainable. You can't do this.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of resistance, and we didn't know what we were doing. We are not social, what's the word?
Social workers.
Social workers, we didn't
We're specialists in
opiates
any way.
and heroin.
Yeah.
And I thought heroin in Newburyport? No way. Well, that was so far from the truth. But anyway, we got him into the detox, and it was really the best analogy I can give you is like we just dove into water, a lake, an ocean, and didn't know how to swim.
Yeah.
So we quickly researched, found out what's out there, what to avoid, got him into detox, and he was still pushing back, and then got him into a program in Cape Cod for about 8 weeks. And it's very expensive, but we were kind of committed, so we got him through that. And finally, Corey kind of came to the realization, like, wow, why am I fighting this? And after about 2 months at Cape Cod, we got him into a 12-step program in Wakefield, Massachusetts, called
House 16.
House 16. Thank you, Kim. House 16, just a wonderful, dedicated 12-step program. And from there, really, Corey just took off. Now, this is going back, a couple of years, 2014, and he's just doing great now.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
He went back to college, he got his degrees,
That's
working,
great.
involved with a wonderful relationship. It's 180 degrees. It's so nice to see. But the origin, really, to get to your question, was as we were helping Corey, his friends, other people started coming almost out of the woodwork saying, can you help me? Can you fund me? And I was like, Kim, we can't afford to do this. So we quickly said, maybe we should establish a group, a nonprofit, where we could raise more money to help these people that are coming to us. And that's really how it got started. And so we started helping Corey, I guess, 2013, 2014. It took, about a year and a half. And then we established officially the Pelican Intervention Fund in 2015. And that's how we kind of got started. And again, I look back, I'm like, we didn't know what we didn't know. But and we would talk to people and try to, as we first got started, Kim knows this story better, but people were like, why are you talking about opiates and heroin in Andover, in Amesbury, in Newburyport? They kind of got mad at us. we don't get that pushback anymore.
Yeah, I'll bet you don't. Yeah,
People-
because it's a very sad but all too common story about the grip that this particular type of drugs has on people, and then it's a spiral downward. And of course, they are everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no community that is immune to the impact of these drugs, as you discovered. So it's clearly, that's a wonderful story. It's sad that the story needed to happen, but it's wonderful that you were available and willing, out of love and commitment, to jump into the water, as you say, without knowing how to swim, and then finding, just the right kind of strokes and the direction to take, and finding the knowledge base that enabled Corey to survive. So I give you tons of credit for the love and care and the research that you were willing to do, and the commitment. That's an extraordinary story, and I give you lots of credit for that. You've clearly been lifesavers, so thank you for that on behalf of the community.
It's really, thank you, very kind words. It's really the community. And again, to get back to your question, Kim, why don't you tell about how we really, it just wasn't Kim and I.
How do we start this? So
great story.
we actually went to our church and invited two of our priests, Father George and Father Tim, to come to our home, and we invited 40 friends, neighbors, and people from our community, church community, and they came. We had a nice catered dinner, and we had a beautiful fire going in the fireplace, and we had 3 stools in front of the fireplace, and we had a woman and 2 boys that had gone through Newburyport. All were local men and women that had gone through the high school, and they basically shared their journey. And they shared that it started well before they got to college with the alcohol and the marijuana. That started well before they got off to college. And they shared their stories, and people really were shocked. And
it was an eye-opener.
It really was. And as Father Tim left that day, he said, I really did not understand addiction until I heard these stories.
These I call them kids. These young adults are your next door neighbors. They're the kid that mowed your yard. They're an Eagle Scout. They're a hockey player. They're a cheerleader. They're great kids, but they got into this grip. And as you made reference to it, it's apparently it's an awful drug.
It is, and they don't know what they're getting into. They don't know what they're starting, because you use the phrase, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know the power of these drugs. And when you're that age, there's so much you don't know that you don't know, and and they won't always listen until they have themselves a painful experience. So I'm really glad you had that event and that it was an eye opener. All we need to do is remember when we were teenagers and young adults, and how much did our parents know about what we were doing?
That's true.
Very little.
That's true.
So anyway, that was that event then that you held.
We did. So we raised maybe a few $1,000s that very first night. Great. People gave us donations, and then we just really started the hard work. I met at every church. So originally we supported 9 communities or 7 communities surrounding Newburyport, and we presented at every church, every
Schools,
synagogue,
anybody would listen to us.
Like every week, we had presentations, and that's where we started to really get our word out there. We went to the businesses, individuals, but really we started raising money very quickly. People really, basically everyone's touched by this, whether it be their son, their daughter, their grandchild, a coworker, their neighbor, and it resonated. And people really, they saw that we were genuine. They saw that that was a very pure, what we were trying to do, help community men and women. So really the raising the money was the easy part. There were just so many challenges in between, because so much has happened in recovery from where we began. Back in 2015, it was just almost impossible to find a bed for detox.
That's true. That's a good point.
And now there are so many more resources and community resources, like Pat and Gail House. They have a substance abuse initiative, so you can get some support there.
Learn to Cope for parents and family members.
Cope, which is
That's a great organization. Learn to Cope.
Wonderful organization to give family the support. So there is so much more out there today than there was back in 2015.
which is wonderful. But you were pathfinders, so all that. So take the credit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's interesting. I think it's often true that once somebody breaks the barrier of the stigma of talking about what's going on, the stories start dropping like apples from trees in the fall,
Yeah.
and you find out, as you were saying, how many lives have been touched, and you're not more than probably 1 degree of separation from somebody who has been seriously touched by the challenges and the heartbreak of addiction.
Yeah.
So, well, before we move on, I want to ask you more about kind of, what you're doing and the type of programs you sponsor, but I'm curious about the name you chose for your organization. You have these wonderful T-shirts on today.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you wore them. But what made you decide to call it the Pelican Intervention Fund?
Well, it's actually a Christian symbol
Yeah, the pelican.
of redemption. The mother pelican is to believe to pierce her own chest and give her young her life-giving blood when she can't provide food, similar to the symbol with Christianity with Jesus, and redemption with his life-giving
Sacrifice,
blood.
redemption,
Sacrifice,
yeah, giving back.
Other symbols of the pelican, however, are wisdom, humility, charity, nurturing, generosity, and direction. Those are other adjectives that describe the pelican.
I never knew these qualities. I never knew about the behavior of pelicans, nor the many wonderful and noble qualities. I'll never see pelicans the same way again.
I'd say it can be confusing, because for many times people think we're saving pelicans, or the pelicans are near
it's an endangered
extinction or whatever.
Yeah,
You're saving, but
we've had. I remember the time we have a booth at some fair talking about trying to educate people what we do, and we've had a couple like, I didn't know the pelican bird was extinct. Here, we'll give you some money. I'm like, well, I'll take your money, but it wasn't really, But yeah, I think it's a good name, and I like it.
It's attention getting, because it's unusual.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that one of the things that has changed in our society since you started the organization was that there are more resources that have developed, because the problem sadly has intensified and expanded.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about why your organization, why the type of fundraising you do is needed now more than ever, in spite of some expansion of some types of services.
Well, I guess I'd like to talk to the statistic. Really, you would think that with all the resources that have been put into this, federally and by each state, that the numbers would be much lower. But really, that's the opposite. There's been 8.8% increase just in the past 2 years, and in the state alone,
the stat I like is, to put a scale to it. Last year, I think, on a national basis, there was 38,000 deaths by accidents in motor vehicle. Very sad. 108,000, almost 3 times by opiate and addiction, and that's with dramatic improvements like Narcan. Narcan is almost, of course, every EMT has it. Narcan's it's either a spray or
an antidote
and brings the kids back, and it's life-saving. It's in schools, but
in the state of Massachusetts, there were over 2,000 deaths in this past year.
Such a sad statistic.
So the numbers, and that reflects only opiate-related deaths. So that does not even touch alcoholism or some other drugs. So that's just, opiate-related deaths. And almost every one of these deaths, many of them are with fentanyl, is a factor driving that number so high right now.
Absolutely.
And it seems like, this process of recovery isn't like, I'm in a, 12-step home, I'm home free. It's there's relapse, and it's a tough journey. And it's ups and downs. And it seems with opiates, like if you relapse, it can become deadly. The body just can't handle it. I guess if you give up drinking, for a short period and you go have a beer or something, you probably won't die. But with these opiates, it just seems that the body can't handle it, and maybe there's more fentanyl in it. They don't know what they're buying.
Gosh.
So those combinations, it seems that they do relapse. It can be fatal. So I think that adds to some of the fatalities too.
Yeah, it's just in other words, it's a deadly, dangerous drug from every direction,
tough.
inside out, every way.
Yeah.
So there might be more resources now than there were when you started, but the need has only amplified.
Right.
And is greater than ever.
Yep.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you to talk about is, you obviously, an individual becomes addicted and you help provide them treatment, but that individual is attached to a family. And so I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about the impact that addiction has on the families of people who fall into the black hole of opioids.
Yeah.
Well, it's a family disease. Everyone within that family is affected. So often, we have the mother or the father that's calling us, just really they don't know the resources out there. But, it's very often that they have a family history of drugs in the family as well. So, but it truly is a family disease and everyone is affected. Parents, there are resources for them. A great resource would be Learn to Cope, where families, they meet and they can share, what they're going through and maybe get some support in the way of boundaries. We're saying healthy boundaries, but certainly everyone in the family is affected, and often many of the people that come to us, they're no longer, their family is no longer able to financially support them, whether they've been in many other programs already, or, the family no longer has resources. So I'd have to, in order to get a scholarship, we ask that they have financial need. So everyone that comes to us they don't have any money to put into this type of recovery, and that's where the difference is, because what we do is non-medically based, so it's not funded by insurance. So, if they want a 12-step sober living, it would not be paid for, unless they can get another scholarship similar to the Pelican. So it is a very specific niche what we do. But
there's also another aspect where some of the families, they're tremendously loving families. The mom and dad are involved. It's a great family, but the individual just for whatever reason goes down. And again, these opiates, I never believed this when we first started this work, but it seems like the people we help have to almost either hit rock bottom or say, I've enough of this lifestyle, I've stolen, I've lost my job, I've lost my career, I've lost my family. I can't live like this. And I thought, oh no, that can't be true. For example, an analogy, like a physician would never say, well, come back when your knee is just like rubber or you can't, you're crawling. No, you try to treat it early. It seems in our experience that that really individual is money, resources, and money you can throw at that person, unless he or she is really like, I need to change my way. Once that kind of clicks, then that's our best, candidate. But it's tough.
It is challenging because they say that denial is sort of the fundamental part of addiction, and that can be so strong and so thick and such a wall to isolate people from others who might try to give them feedback that sadly it creates a situation in which often, as you were just eloquently saying, Steve, people have to kind of reach bottom and get to a point where they can't tolerate their own lives anymore. And they have to overcome their own denial. So you put that very well, the impact on families and how it is a family kind of challenge, and hopefully families can heal together. One of the things you mentioned were that the type of programs, the 12-step based residential sober living programs, are not covered by insurance. There might be some special grants available, but a lot of people it's either self-pay or you don't get to go. And I would like to ask you to talk about why you focused the Pelican Intervention Fund on that type of residential 12-step based program. What made you make that choice, and why is that type of treatment so important?
Well, really, it's through, for me, it's seeing really the transformation in Corey, because after he lived for 6 months in a 12-step residential facility, he came back and lived with us then. He was really a changed young man. I mean, everything from his gratitude, he talked with us, his eye contact, the giving back.
Your face just lights up as you talk about that. Well, so it's powerful.
It really is extremely powerful. But we saw this transformation in him, and we saw that it worked for him. And again, everyone's path to recovery is different. But we saw the hope in a 12-step for Corey, and we wanted to share that with other people. The hope and really just the change. You get the tools that you need to stay sober for the rest of your life. And that's what the 12-step does.
Well, having tools that you yourself can use, it's like, what's that old saying about give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach him how to fish, and he can
survive.
fish for, maybe not the best analogy, but you get the sense of the meaning. That I think that's what you're saying, that in the 12-step program, rather than a medically based program where you're using a drug to overcome drugs, that you get the spiritual and emotional and cognitive tools combined through the 12 steps in order to be able to heal yourself at the time you need it, but also to be able to continue keeping yourself sober and steady. Did I understand you?
Yep. But I am cautious in the respect that everyone's recovery is different, and medically based treatment. And every person could be, there could be dual diagnosis there, that they're on a certain medication or need to be on a certain medication. So everyone is different. So I just try to, but what we do provides a different path than maybe the medically based treatment that someone could possibly be put on as a stabilizer, but then they're maybe on this for several years and like, wow, I really have not regained my life the way I wanted to do. So then, for instance, we were just at one of the sober houses recently. For women, we bring dinner often to some of the houses, and some of the women share with us, that they were on some medically based treatment, and really they were not happy with the quality of the life that they were living. And when they were in detox, their caseworkers never even shared with them this type of recovery.
Oh, that it would be an option.
Right. And so
and
they are very happy with their present journey. But again, it's not for everyone.
We should be, I think you bring up a great point there, and we should be fair, like we're not physicians, and there's this whole do no harm. So if you're really an addict and you want to go the medically based treatment, as Kim said, maybe that's a path for you. Our experience, we've just seen what the faith-based 12-step programs can do, and it can be any faith. We're Catholic. The first, Corey was Jewish. You just as long as you have like, look, I can't handle this, I have to go to a higher power, whatever your higher belief is.
The surrender.
But that's the frustrating thing, to be honest with you, because like the government insurance covers medically based, no problem. Insurance, but they won't cover 12 because it's faith-based, so they don't touch that. So that's why I think the difference there. But it's the family's choice, the individual's choice, and there's those options out there. We personally have just seen the effectiveness of the 12-step. And Kim brings up a good point. Like we were talking to the young people, and I always say, how did you get there? How did you get out? And how they got there is disturbingly similar. It's just a spiral. It's sad, but how they get out is almost like they were told, oh, go to this program or do this. They have no idea of the options out there. So that's why part of this, and again, thank you, is educating the opportunities out there to make people aware of. There's 12-step programs.
And it is a lot of work. It's not a quick fix. We're talking about a Band-Aid effect. I mean, it's really a lot of hard work, and the 12 steps is meant for all of us really to live our lives with. But it's a journey. It's a journey.
It takes courage and self-awareness. And you make the excellent point that everybody's different, of course. And for some people, a medically based program might be just right and might be sufficient for them to get on track. But for other people, it might be helpful in the beginning, but then they're going to need more. For other people, they would benefit from the beginning with something like a 12-step program that helps them develop the self-awareness and the tools in order to stay on track and and be in touch with, as you put it, Steve, whatever higher power is. Higher
Correct.
power, in one sense, is just the truth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So,
That's-
well, I'm curious. I was hoping that you might be. I know that you've helped a lot of people, and therefore you've helped a lot of families too, because they're connected. So I was hoping that you might share some stories or examples of the difference that you've made in people's lives, because they've told you about it.
Well,
Yeah, you
it's
go ahead.
extremely humbling, first of all, to be able to help so many people. Our number actually is
105.
105.
Yeah, since
And we
2015.
never thought we would get probably beyond 10 people or be able to fund that, raise that kind of money. But yeah, it's.
Since we started, 105 people. This year alone, it's
Wow.
20 people that we've gotten into 12-step programs.
That's
And so the
impressive.
need is continue to grow. We've raised over $500,000.
That's
and really,
very
it's
impressive.
been. Kim, there's a lot of credit, but it's been small donations, individuals, businesses, the community, banks. The businesses in Newburyport, Amesbury, the area here has been unbelievable, and the community has been unbelievable, supporting us really incredibly. Yeah.
Well, that's an impressive record, and that's 105
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
But think
And
of all
grow.
the families they're connected to,
Oh.
all the colleagues and co-workers. So that's a vast network.
And it's
Yeah.
also, if you
good
help
feeling.
someone and they are sober, how many people they are then a hope for, the trickle-down effect, how many people can they,
Right.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's fun. And Mary, to your point, like then those stories are the most impactful stories. Like this is my journey. It was tough, but I'm back on my feet. I'm being a productive citizen again. I have a family again. Those are powerful stories. It
They
gives hope
are.
to other people that might be struggling.
That's
so
right.
That's the magic of it, really.
Yeah.
The people that have done well, and
It-
they're marching our parade.
I
this
would say one of
Sunday.
our success stories, when we just talked about families, just recently we have 3 men that have gone through our program, and all 3 of them, one soon to be second baby,
yeah.
but 2 just recently had children.
Wonderful.
So to
Yeah.
me, that's one of the great successes, just being productive. They're gone back to school,
Yeah.
many of them, or have a career path now, and they're just the relationships are gotten stronger for them with their families and their significant other, and now having families. So to me, that's just
Yeah.
one of the
Oh.
best rewards is when you
Absolutely.
see
Yeah, it's fun.
To
someone.
be able to rejoin the world of the living and lead a gratifying life that also, as they tell their stories, becomes an inspiration to others
Right.
that you can do this, and you'll be glad you did,
Yeah.
even when it
And
feels
also,
hard.
especially for women that may have lost their children to foster care, or a family member is now caring for them, and to be able to get custody back for their children,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just
Oh my gosh!
Fantastic.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
totally gratifying.
Awesome.
So, well, thank you for that. And
Yeah.
congrats on that. It's really impressive. Well, now you've gotten the honor this year of being invited to be Grand Marshals of the Yankee Homecoming Parade
Pretty
this
exci-
Sunday.
Yeah,
Yes.
very excited.
So, yeah, I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about how you feel about being Grand Marshals, and not for nothing, what does a Grand Marshal do?
Good question.
That's the first thing we asked too.
Actually,
Like, what the heck?
I actually looked it up in
Yeah.
the dictionary. It said that it's bestowed on a person who shows leadership qualities and
well.
deserves a place of honor, which we are
You
extremely.
exemplify that.
And we are honored that we were
It's
chosen
an
that.
honor for sure.
And also is the person that takes the lead position in the procession of the parade.
You've got
But
both.
I will tell you that when we were called to ask if we'd be the Grand Marshals, I was really nervous. I said, well, before I say yes, I want to know what this entails, because I thought I was in charge of the whole Yankee Homecoming.
Yeah, right.
No
And-
one would say yes.
Yeah.
There'd never be a Grand Marshal.
But I do have one really beautiful story. The gentleman who chose us, who is he's actually in charge of the parade. He shared with me that he saw us marching a few years ago, and he saw what hope we brought. And we do have a huge presence out there. Usually, the
We had
biggest
like 80
number marching.
marchers
Wow.
last
And
year.
Wonderful.
Yeah, hoping-
he himself at the time was struggling with an addiction.
Interesting.
And by watching us, he said it really gave him hope.
Oh, what a great story.
And it really is. I wanted to show. So I don't want to say his name, but I was just
We
so
asked him if he
proud
could share
that
that
he
story,
did.
though,
Yeah, that chose us for that reason. Because when we march, how many people could we be, bringing hope to on Sunday as well?
Right. And no one's going to miss you because you're going to be in front.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, but they want us to ride in the convertible. I said, no. I said, I need to be walking.
Kim would be great with like a top hat or sash or something.
Yeah,
with
of
a
course.
bouquet of flowers.
Maybe a tiara.
She wasn't having any of it.
Especially since I need a knee replacement. I was thinking that a second thought, but I said, I can't even imagine not walking with our group.
Yeah.
So even though it'll say Grand Marshal,
bet.
our group will be right beside us.
Yeah.
There
right
you
behind
go.
us.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's really great and a much deserved honor because you're leaders in every sense of the word.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, so an important question then is two things. How can people apply for assistance if they hear this and they go, oh my gosh, yeah,
Right.
I could use that? And how can people find out more about your organization and how if they want to donate, how can they?
Okay. Can I just go back to that?
Yeah, sure.
I had one
Oh,
other
I do.
question
Yeah, of
about
course.
the parade.
Sure.
The first time we marched was 4 years ago, and I was very nervous. I'm thinking, how is the community going to perceive us? We're walking with Boy Scouts, church groups, and we're holding signs that said love,
Recovery.
love,
Hope,
faith,
yeah, 12 steps.
12
Sobriety.
steps,
Yeah,
community,
exactly.
love. And we're walking, and all of a sudden, someone screams from the crowd,
Yeah.
"We love you, Pelican."
Oh.
Yeah.
And the entire high street chanted Pelican,
Yeah.
Pelican.
It was nice.
And what was really affirming for the people walking, because not everyone walking with us is in recovery, but someone would come to our group and hug Corey or John or Scott or anyone and give them a high five, acknowledging that they were on the recovery path, and maybe they knew them from high school, or maybe it was a coach of theirs from when they were in Boy Scouts, or we have a volunteer who's a Boy Scout leader. But that was really just so beautiful to see the support that the walkers were getting from the community.
Well, and the impact, clearly.
The impact and the education, because so many people in that community that were watching us, that they were somehow affected with someone in their family.
Yeah.
We walked by the Brigham Manor, and there was a woman who was seated, and she had a walker in front of her, and it took all of her strength to stand, and she took her hand and pounded her chest, and she was crying. And of course, the entire high street, I was crying, but I thought, it could have been her grandson. But so not only are we bringing hope, but we're also bringing information and
That's right.
that you're not alone on this journey.
right.
That people care.
That's right.
So
That you've created a community.
and it has been. So when we walk, even though we're the Grand Marshals, it's really Newburyport that we're celebrating and we're honoring, because we could
Absolutely.
never have done this without the generosity, the support, and I'll always say it's through God that's really worked through our clients and ourselves. So there's so many people to thank, and that they're all going to be honored there on Sunday.
Wonderful. What a great day.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to
No,
put that
that's
in.
it. I'm glad you did. That's a wonderful
Thank you.
story. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So how can people then?
Well, we have a website that was managed by us. It could use a little work, frankly. It was just down the
Oh, they all can.
Yeah.
It's called PelicanInterventionFund.org.
And we talk a little about what we are, what our mission is. We have some testimonials on there. We have a little page where if you want to get involved to volunteer, we have a page if you want to apply, and the application will basically come to us, and then we get the application, and then again, we're not social workers. We'll send that application to one of the 12-step sober homes we work with. We have 2 for men, 2 for women, and we'll say, this may be a candidate, they applied, and then they'll do an interview. Kim actually talked to every
I
single...
talk to each client
First,
and explain to them what the expectations is
That's a good point, Kim.
expectations is that you're going to do this for 6 months, and the fact that we don't give a free ride for the 6 months. It's the first month of funding, and then after that, part of the 12 steps is accountability, and for them to come up, and all the sober houses will help them find local work. So they will, but it's that first month when they're coming in with no funding whatsoever that we support. So after speaking to the expectations from the Pelican, then we'll refer them to the houses.
Right.
And the final decision is made by the house manager, if you will, because most of those managers have been the recovered
they know
people
whereof
themselves.
they
So
speak.
they know, like, if they talk to you, they're like, you're not quite ready. And then they would try to help them out, like, here's some other resources, but I don't think you're fit here at this point. So they make the final call, and then if they get back to us and say, this is a great candidate, we cut a grant through Essex County Community Foundation. That's where all our money goes.
Yep.
And I do want to point out that we're all volunteer. Nobody gets paid in this organization. So really every dollar we raise goes to the bank account in Essex County Community Fund. And we have a system there where we can cut the grant and direct it to one of those 4 homes. And
what makes it a little bit more challenging is Essex County Community Foundation, we love them, but they only support other nonprofits. So every sober house that we help has to be a nonprofit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which becomes more challenging. And the women's houses, one is in Dorchester, Howe House. Somersworth is a woman's house called Sober Sisters, and then
beautiful home,
beautiful home, and then a great program that we support in Somersworth, New Hampshire, called Michael Diaz Foundation.
Okay.
Actually, that's in Springfield.
Springfield,
Massachusetts.
Yeah. Well, so it's a good process then, but the important point is that every dollar that goes in as a donation goes directly to helping somebody's journey to recovery.
Yeah.
So that's really great.
I'm proud of that because that's, people give money. It's not to have an office or pay somebody.
Right.
It's to help.
Our office is our kitchens. We have a problem with the website today, and he's on a business call. And
so I'll have to put, we're still working, so we put that aside and scramble to figure out how we get the website. We've learned a lot, though, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've gotten kind of good at things, some things.
This is our crunch time because we do a lot in the summer months because once the winter comes, we live in California, and we help raise our grandchildren, but we're able to do everything from California, all
remotely,
the intakes. And
Mary, you should see our garage right now. It's full of candy, water, banners, T-shirts, spray water
bottles.
I'll bet.
Staging. I can't wait till we have this
Ready
parade.
to launch.
Well, after the parade, we invite everyone back for a full luncheon, and we have so many businesses that a complete lunch has been provided.
Wonderful.
So
that's really
It's
great.
another example of community, I think
Absolutely.
after all these years, recognizing the effort, and they're like, what do you need? Pizza, sandwiches,
they see me
waters.
coming in. They don't run anymore. They say, what do you, actually, Domino
What do you
said,
need, Kim?
Yeah, exactly. Believe me, it's a much easier path.
Domino said to me, so how many pizzas do you want this year?
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, it's all really wonderful, and I'm sure it's going to be a great parade.
Yeah.
Would you like to say something about the event in October that you were telling me about for the
Thank
show?
you.
And just so people will know to look out for that.
Yeah, that's a great.
Well,
thank you.
education has been a really big, important part for us. We have had some of the former Newburyport students go back and speak in the wellness classes, but we've also had testimonial events. We had our first one at Carryout Cafe. We love Paul, a big shout out to her. And we have had them at the senior center, but we have an event that we were actually supposed to have one right before everything shut down at Paula's, but we are going to have one on the 9th of October, the second Sunday of October, from 1 to 3:30 at the Newburyport Town Hall.
Oh, great.
And at that point, we'll have probably about 4 people sharing their stories and their hope in 12-step recovery, as well as a lot of wonderful resources. From the police department will be there, Pet and Gill, hopefully, Learn to Cope, Family Restored. So we will have a lot of other resources for families. Recovery coaching that will be there. So that will be great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent, especially since you were talking earlier about how people often don't always know about the
They don't.
resources that are available in their own
They don't.
community.
Right.
So October 9th.
October 9th, and
9th.
people
At
can
City
actually
Hall.
come down this afternoon from very shortly from 10 to 2 over at the Senior
At the
Center
Senior
here.
Center today.
We have an event
Right.
that is called Know Your Community, and we're going to be
Today.
there as well.
That's right.
Right.
Do we have time for one more story about a volunteer so
yes, you
special?
do.
Because it kind of, I think, exemplifies the type of people that have helped us
Stepped
out.
up and helped us.
Sounds
wanna
like the,
tell her
the perfect
about-
note to end our
Okay,
recovery.
good. You want to talk about Alice? You got to talk about Alice.
Her name is Alice Mulvaney. Alice
is
was
awesome.
a former teacher at the Bresnahan. She came to our event at Carryout Cafe, our very first official event, and she heard Corey and other young men and women in recovery, and Corey was her former student.
Oh,
And
no kidding.
she
Oh.
left that day thinking, I've got to help this group. She called us up, and I didn't call her right back, and she kept on was
she's
persistent.
persistent.
And she has been with us every event, and one of the most beautiful events was when she was 70 years old. Alice did a skydiving event with Corey together.
Oh my!
With also the Newburyport Police Department.
Oh yeah, Danny from one of the police officers
And
here.
Corey,
She jumped.
Yep, Corey thought of the name. It was called A Leap of Faith.
Oh, perfect.
It was
Can you
perfect.
believe it? So we see Alice and Corey coming down from the sky. I'm like, this is amazing.
It was absolutely
It was
perfect.
fun.
But a big shout out to Alice
Yeah.
because really she has been just beautiful. That exemplifies community because
Yeah.
so many people have helped us. I'll go to Shaw's and someone say, "Hi, Pelican Lady." I mean, people just recognize and it's
That's
great.
good, I guess. I don't know,
Shout
Pelican
out
Lady.
to Alice,
Yeah.
leap of faith and
Yeah.
courage.
Yes.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
well, Kim and Steve, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
For
you.
being on the
Mary,
show
yeah.
today, and also just for the leadership. You've earned that Grand Marshal position. I
Yeah.
would say you
Thank
tick the
you.
box on leadership in every possible way, and for the really important healing work that you do for our whole community. And if you heal one community, every community is connected to other communities. You heal the world. So thank you so much for taking time to be on the
That's
show,
awesome.
and thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you. Thank you
Wow.
again for the opportunity. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take
Okay,
care.
bye
Try
now.
to stay cool out there
Yes,
today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.